Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 22nd, 2021 at approximately 7:23 a.m. PST. We have had a lot of trouble this morning trying to get this one recorded. And I do say trying because this is hopefully the last time we make the attempt. The rest of them have been botched. So, this is a live recording. Which means I don't go back and edit any of it. When I started this journey on March 6th, of 2021, thanks very much to you people that encouraged me to do so. It was about getting my life organized and getting my little pocket sorted around and showing you how to do that. Well, it's gotten a little beyond that in case you hadn't noticed. Basically, it boils down to this. When we take a look at the state the world is in, you'll find there is so much chaos, so much fear, so much greed, and that can all be stopped by you. This is not the responsibility of the big mogul companies. It's not the responsibility of the political leaders or the religious leaders. The whole thing, the whole of civilization, and quite frankly, the world, relies on you. Okay? I've got my own stuff to do, but the reality is, when we take a look at the situation the world's in, when you start following karmic law properly and absolutely check your own religious guidelines or spiritual guidelines, when you take a look at it, I only talk about three laws. They're all karmic laws. Be true to yourself. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Energy out, energy in. Now, if you take a look at all the different guidelines that you've got, the laws that your religious faction or your spiritual group are saying, these are the laws to follow. Compare them to those three laws. Don't take my word for it. Compare them yourself. And see if the ones that you're following fit into those three. Now, I heard it put one day that the most ingenious thing anybody ever did was they took a real simple concept and complicated it. Well, I'm aiming at doing the exact opposite, taking a really complicated thing and simplifying it, not beyond functionality. When you take a look at your world, now, everybody talks about, I'd like my world to be better. I'm not happy with the way the world is. There's so much garbage going on, or there's so much garbage in the streets. Here's the reality. If you take care of you, if you take responsibility for your own actions, your own words, and you do your part, if everybody does a little bit, it will all clean up. It'll all get straightened out. Now, you got to remember, the reality is every single person is a different person. They're all individual. Much like has been surmised about snowflakes. Not a one is the same as the next. Of course, I'd love to know how they figured that one out, but what the heck. Everybody is an individual, but we are all denizens of the same planet. People talk about different worlds, different world countries. This is a first world country, that's a third world country. Got news for you. One world, one peoples. The species is on one world. And it is long overdue time people started paying attention to this. If you're propagating, if you're somebody in a position of power and you've got people looking up to you, be it a politician, a religious leader, a teacher, a parent, doesn't matter. If you've got somebody looking up to you and you're talking to them about fearing what they're doing, or fearing the person laying down the rules, you're setting yourself up for a problem. Because I don't know about you, but as far as I've run into, very few people enjoy being scared, except when they're watching a horror movie. And I do not personally understand that. I don't like those anyway. But when you take responsibility for your own actions, together we can change little pockets of the world, and every little pocket will grow. Okay, it'll end up expanding to the point, it's kind of like putting a whole pile of little puddles on the ground. Sooner or later, they all come together and you end up with one big lake or one big ocean. Now, much like the planet, okay, you'll have the majority of people are really decent people, but no matter how hard you try, somebody will. There is no doubt there will be somebody that doesn't like the way it's going, and will cause problems if for no other point than to make themselves feel like they're in better shape or like they're in more control. Ironically, where it comes to business or running a household, if you treat the people that are around you decently, you get better productivity, your profit line goes up. Okay, ultimately, you get a much better living environment where your stress level collapses. Okay, now if you don't know how to do something, absolutely it is critical you talk to the people around you. Okay, you'll notice now I haven't done a lot. I'm hoping today, well, we'll scrap hope. I'm committed to myself today to get some of the stuff behind me sorted out. Okay, I've had to leave it alone well, I got sidetracked. And I do that a lot, in case you hadn't noticed. But the trick is to stay focused on the end game. Okay, and to do what feels right from your standpoint, providing you're not breaking karmic law. Now, the one thing I do remind people, and it falls under the second law, is you must follow the laws of the land in which you are. If you're coming from one country and moving to another country, follow the laws of the new country. Do not expect the fact that you come from a different country that the world should change for you. Okay, if you go into somebody else's house, you don't expect them to change their rules around the house, at least I hope you don't, to accommodate you. Okay, again, it boils down to do unto others. If you think about it, if somebody comes into your home, do you want to have to modify the way you do things to accommodate a visitor? Or accommodate somebody that you said, okay, absolutely, we're going to be roommates, you can move into this house. Now, if you're moving in with somebody, okay, the reality is this. First and foremost, yes, it was. If they're already there and you're joining the household, then yes, it was their home. But in order for it to work with you moving in, it has to become your home, yours and theirs. It cannot just be their home. Oh, this is where my stuff goes. If you're bringing somebody into a house, adding somebody to your household, you've got to look at it as though they are part of that household. That household is now equally theirs. I'm not talking financially. I'm talking the way that the place runs. Okay. Now, I keep this list, and I've shown it to you many times. I keep a list of things that I'm doing, that I've got to do today, and I keep having to add to them, which is normal, but by the end of the day, I can take a look at the end and say, I got this much done, and I feel like I got something accomplished. Now, of course, the problem is, if you're making the jobs too big, and you get pulled away, you're going to feel like you got nothing done. This is why I say, you put the list together in jobs that are 15 minutes to half an hour in length. Now, today was a prime example. I run these videos for only half an hour. But today it has been a royal pain making them work. So I mean, this is, like I said, this is I guess the fifth time that I've started this video. I'm keeping my hands away from the keyboard right now because last time I shut the thing off halfway through it. But I've got a list of things here that I have to make certain I get to. That I've got to get to today. And yes, I'm writing and trying to draw to speak at the same time, and that's not working today. Clearly, my brain is not working as well as I would like. But I'll get through that. Okay, my brain goes on hold every now and again, in case you hadn't noticed. So, you pick where you're starting right now is the critical issue, but take a look at the people around you and ask yourself this: am I treating the people around me in a way that I would appreciate being treated? Now, I have made my own mistakes. I am not by any functional stretch perfect. Okay, I do get frustrated. I do bark at people. Not a good thing, but it is something I've been working at doing my best to avoid. Hasn't worked all that well, especially when you're bombarded with things from all over the place going, this is wrong, the world's wrong, there's so much crime going on, you know, and this is why I recommend to people, pay attention to the positive things. Okay. The idea is pretty clear. If there are bad things going on, yes, it is important for the news media to relay this information. But personally, I would like to see them take the really negative stuff, the murders and the murders, the robberies, that sort of thing, absolutely revert to them. Report them. But here's the thing: if you put them even halfway through the book, through the paper, or halfway through the magazine, okay, you start the day off, big front page says, here's something somebody did, here's somebody that did something nicely. Here's an award somebody got. You show on the front page of a magazine somebody receiving an award for helping people. And you go through the first 4 or 5 pages and you're getting, this person helped this, and here's a breakthrough somebody made. Here's a change here's a new person that got brought into a community, and here's how people help them. Then you go a third of the way in or halfway in, and you go, so-and-so robbed such and such a bank. Okay, it is important to have this stuff reported. But if you put it back, then if you want to know about who got robbed, you can flip to the back, or you can go one page at a time. You get to the back. Okay. And you read about the robbery. But what it does is it takes that mainstream on the front page, so and so robbed such and such, and puts it out of mainstream, so you're not the criminal is not getting the recognition. You minimize the negative, you maximize the positive. Okay, so you put it in the back, you still report it, you're still doing your job as a reporter. But what you're doing is taking away the recognition for the criminal. Now, so you've got the good stuff at the front, you put the negative stuff just past the bad stuff, or just past the halfway point. And then you tie it off with a bunch of other good stuff. Okay. And I mean, it's easiest to put the, like the sales and what have you, i.e. your marketplace type setup, where anybody can sell, legally anything. That gets put at the back along with some other good articles. Because from what I've gathered in my own research, okay, is that people remember a simple rule in writing. Okay, they remember the front of the magazine or the front of the newspaper, and they remember the back of the newspaper. The middle of the newspaper gets kind of ignored. Now, this is a good thing, okay, because if you're putting positive at the front and back and the negative in the middle, if that's the part that people are forgetting about, then frankly they're going to focus on the positive, and in general, people are going to end up feeling better about what's going on, and subsequently they're going to feel a little bit more driven to change things, to make things continue to get better. There are so many people that are fighting depression right now, especially under the current circumstances. Okay, I know in my lifetime 2020 is going to be a year to remember, not a year to remember fondly exactly, but certainly a year to remember. Now, if the media were to actually follow that kind of thinking, even like, for instance, even if we were to deal with the news, okay, with video news, tell the good stories first. Don't make the robberies the number one thing. Don't make the real negative things the headline news. Headline news, so and such got married. You know, headline news, so is such and such a store put a major sale on. Okay, in this time of crisis, they put this major sale on. It's going on at this point. Now, and you put it in such a way that they did it because the people are hurting. By doing that, okay, it promotes the business, it promotes the positive feeling, it promotes the idea of helping each other, which is what we have to do if we're going to get through this mess together. And rest assured, no matter what happens, no matter what shape the human race ends up in, Earth itself is going to continue for probably another 5 billion years or so. Okay, and that's just a rough gauge. The scientists will know that better than I will. Because rest assured, I'm no scientist. Well, not from the clinical definition. I've never gone to university for it. Heck, I got my base grade 8 science, and that's where it ended. So, take a look at the world you're living in and ask yourself, in said world, what are you personally not content with? It's those things that you're not content with that you have control over that it's time to start changing them. Okay, when you have a dream. Now, I've talked to you before about various different books that I've put together and a dream that I have of actually doing that for my permanent income. Okay, now just yesterday, I've got the opportunity to go down. I was asked to bring my books down to see about putting them into a store. So I will be doing that today in a few hours. I'll be going down for that purpose and see where that works. So wish me luck on that one, please. Okay, when you have a dream, do not give up on the dream. But basically, it boils down to this. Get the dream clear in your head. What are you looking for? Where it comes to these videos, okay, my goal is to become globally recognized. Okay, now in the UFO community, I'm already pretty recognized. I've been on Spaced Out Radio the first Friday of every month for over 6 years now. Okay, that's on the internet. Now, there are some terrestrial radio stations, some actual physical radio stations that also broadcast it. I don't know the ins and outs. Okay, I'm just simply a guest speaker there. But in the UFO community, I have become somewhat known. My goal with these videos is to have the same impact. I see these YouTubers out that have hundreds of thousands of followers that are listening. Okay, now, from what I've seen, most of these are people that are playing games. I am not a gamer. Okay, the closest thing I get to gaming, where it comes to computer, is yes, I do play Skyrim, right? I play slower moving games because I don't track the speed of them very well. Okay, so I play some of the slower moving games, but I don't what's the word? I don't broadcast them. Okay, because they're my way of winding down, and I don't feel like going through and trying to sort it out. But I watch some of these, like I've watched some of the religious people out now, the religious televangelists, and they propagate so much in the way of fear this, fear that, fear such and such. Okay, now I'm not about to sit here and tell you you should fear the world. Okay, fear is ultimately it's the flip side of love. Now you have to have both in order to recognize either. But am I going to sit here and tell you fear is a good way to go? Not even close. You will find that, because what I'm aiming at is to get this message to everybody on the planet, whether it's because of viewers watching or because of viewers that have watched, and carry the message to the communities that don't have it. Either way, I'll be happy with it. Okay, as a matter of fact, I'm simply happy that I've got this many followers, And right now it ain't that many, realistically. I'm not even entirely certain how many followers I've got. Last I checked, a whopping 106. Tiny wee number compared to what I'd like to see. But we'll see what happens. Now that number comes from a few days ago. But the message I desire to get out to people is it is time to put the differences aside, to focus on the similarities between people, and to work together to make this a peaceful world. You know, a world where people can walk out the door without worrying about whether they're going to get shot. Okay, or without worrying about whether somebody's going to steal their bicycle. Now, kids are not born violent towards each other. Okay, they are not born argumentative. They are not born greedy. What happens is the child is born in the environment they're in, whether it's the community or whether it's the home itself. That environment is what trains these kids to become prejudiced, fearful, cynical, self-serving, self-righteous. All these things are taught by society. The kids are not born this way. Therefore, if you have brought a child into the world, or if you are caring for children, such as a teacher, keep in mind, if you're treating the people, if you teach the kids to get along, and I don't mean you punish them. I mean, just a minor pet peeve. I watch this and I hear of schools where kids are skipping out. And even when I was in school, it was just the weirdest thing to me. You know, a kid skips out for X number of days. And the school calls them in and goes, okay, you've been skipping school, so you're suspended for a week. Now, I have never understood the logic of this. Okay, I mean, if you're skipping school, clearly they want out, so you're going to essentially reward them by telling them they don't have to come. That falls under the category if you can't beat them, join them. You know, I mean, this is why it was that kind of a setup that put me in really good shape when the whole COVID quarantine thing started. You know, the professionals said, stay away from people, stay home, drink warm liquids, because the warm liquids apparently were good for the lungs. And, you know, they says, that's what we want you to do. Now, the majority of people are out and about seeing people, and that's going to feel like prison in a lot of ways. For me, I was reclusive anyway. I didn't go out. Okay, I've been essentially reclusive for 10 years. So I didn't go out. I stayed away from people. And I've got a 30-cup urn of coffee at home. Warm liquid. I'm thinking, do exactly what you're doing, and we'll call that working with it. I'm thinking that was not exactly punishment to me, which is why it doesn't bother me that I'm supposed to stay home and away from people. I got over it. You know, and then they turned around and said, wear masks to protect other people. Now, it was funny. I mean, I always looked at the mask going, and that was just personal opinion. I looked at it and I argued the point for the longest time with myself. And the way I looked at it was, if it doesn't stop oxygen, it's not stopping the virus. Right? But I saw a post on Facebook that was absolutely priceless. Right? And, you know, the way it put it, and I'm going to keep it as polite as I can, they were a lot more graphic about it. Right? But what it said was, if you're standing next to somebody, and they were referring to the mask, and they said, if you're wearing standing next to somebody, and you're not wearing any clothes, and you end up wetting yourself, okay, the guy beside you is going to get wet. Okay. However, if the guy that is having the accident is wearing pants, their pants will get wet, right? And that's where it stays. And there might be, depending on what kind of a mess you're dealing with, there might be a little carryover. If you yourself are also wearing pants, then you're not going to get wet at all, because you've got the pants that the first person is wearing and the pants the second person is wearing. Okay. And when I looked at that, okay, I looked at it and went, you know, that's got to be the funniest way of laying it out that I can think of. But I got thinking, even if it only cuts down, if the mask only cuts down 20% per mask, you're still cutting down the virus, the spread of it, by 20% by putting the mask on yourself. And the second person puts it on, you're now cutting down another 20%. So we're down 40%. It's still a benefit. When that post came out, I looked at it and went, you know, that's got to be a functional reason to wear the mask. So I quit arguing. I was always wearing it when a building said it is recommended. I didn't wait until it became mandatory. If the owner said it's recommended you wear a mask, I took my mask with me. Now, this came, you know, the try English here. I was talking to a chap one day. I never understood boxing. Okay, I never understood the reason people would get into boxing until I talked to a 12-year-old one day that had got into it. And I asked him, why would you get into boxing? Right? And I says, you know, it's the one place where you know you're going to get beaten on. And the kid looks at me and goes, well, yeah, I do. But he says, I got into boxing because I have a temper problem. And at least if I get into the boxing ring, they know I'm going to beat the heck out of them. Right? So they're getting involuntarily. It stops me from beating the heck out of somebody on the street that doesn't have any knowledge of what's going on. And I looked at him and I went, you know, that's got to be the most mature outlook for getting into a boxing ring. I still personally would never get into it. But it is a voluntary thing. And for him, it worked to handle his stress. For me, that ain't the way I handle stress. I don't handle stress well necessarily. I usually end up bottling it and having a heart attack. It's great. Not. Anyway, that being said, thank you for joining me. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel so you can get the rest of the videos coming out. And until we meet again, which, by the way, will be tomorrow at the latest, until we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. Forgot to mention, at the bottom of the video, you'll find a list of contact points to get a hold of me. Okay, any one of them will work. I do my best to reconnect, to answer questions, to connect. Okay, either directly, which is usually the case, or sometimes I'll just put out another video if there's enough of the same question coming out. Okay, there's also a list of the different publications that I put in print that can be ordered only directly through me at this point. So, until tomorrow, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.